I would define engagement in the classroom and with students as a two-way street, where I try to ask students questions that are somewhat thought-provoking on the subject of the day, and then see what they come up with for answers. Who saw the adrenal gland? What did it look like? Kind of pinkish, grayish? And where was it? Where on the kidney? On the top. What would you call that, anatomically speaking? I try to get them actively thinking about what the subject matter for the day is. So engagement is not just asking a question, but having them physically and mentally become engaged in the classroom discussion of that day. I think it's important to be as near the students as possible, so therefore I walk around the room a lot. I guess you could say wander around the classroom and try to physically engage students with eye contact as often as possible. That way the students get the feeling that you're really speaking with them, not talking at them. And I think that's a very important part of engagement, to have that one-on-one with students as often as possible. How many have heard of somebody, they saw somebody in a car accident, and somebody went over and actually picked up the car?
Dr. Milve.
Yeah, did he do that? Where do you think the strength for that came from? From the adrenaline rush. And that's also what we call epinephrine. And norepinephrine is called noradrenaline. So that works along with corticosterone, and they work as stress hormones. I think there's modifications to engagement for students that need to be made for different classroom situations. What you would do in a discussion might be different than in a large lecture hall with 300 plus students, where you can't engage every student individually. But you can engage many of the students by telling stories, getting them actively engaged with something that's personal to them and relating that to them, and then back to the subject matter. That's a way of engaging large numbers. And humor works very well in the classroom. Most students will respond positively to humor, and hopefully they'll remember what the humor was related to in the subject matter, not just the joke. So what do you guys think? Should we put birds on the floor or in cages, or just one bird per cage alone?
I like them on the floor.
Yeah, floor birds we sell them as floor eggs, cage-free eggs here. But is there anything wrong with putting them in cages?
Well, they're happier on the floor.
How do you know they're happy? They smile?
They might.
They might. You ever heard a chicken laugh? You probably have. I don't know. Is happy a human term or an animal term? Are we being anthropomorphic if we say chickens are happy? It's an emotional thing. How do we gauge happiness? Seriously.
Stress.
So we can say reduce stress, so instead of saying happiness, why don't we say well-being? When students are not becoming engaged in the classroom through either direct questioning by the faculty member or by students asking questions back to the faculty, to the teacher, I feel that there's less learning going on. There's less activity. I believe in what they call active learning. I feel that the more senses that a student uses in the classroom, the greater opportunity for them to learn or remember outside. And what was just below the thyroids? Thymic tissue, yeah, what else? Somebody said it.
Syrinx.
No, yeah, the syrinx, voice box, but thyroids and parathyroids. And then what was underneath those? And some of the engagement techniques I use, such as question and answer, I may ask a student a question at which nobody really knows the answer, and then I'll say, well, that's a really good point, because I'm not really sure about it either. Why don't a couple of you look this up tonight, and then at the next class period, let's have a discussion, bring back what you found. Now they have a homework assignment, they have to actively find information, bring it back, report it to the rest of the class in a very non-threatening manner. If you don't have iodine in your diet, don't have enough iodine in your diet, what is the thyroid trying to do?
It wants to produce all the iodine that you're lacking.
Well, it wants to suck up iodine from somewhere. How does it get iodine from the body? What's going through it? The blood. Okay, so it's acting like a filter system, isn't it? It's filtering. Well, guess what? If it considers itself, I'm not filtering very good because I'm not getting enough iodine, what do you think it's going to do? Gets bigger. Yeah, makes more filtration surface area. That's what goiter is. It's trying to increase its ability to filter more and more blood, more volume of blood at any one time to pull that iodine out to make its hormones. In several of my classes, mathematics becomes an important aspect. And working through problems in math, for most students, just watching a professor draw out a problem on a board does not actively engage them. Bringing a student up to the board or to a paper that they can write the problem out on and then work through, they're actively using their hands, they're actively using their eyes, they're actively using their brain to think through the problem. And I can guide them through, even though they're not working at 100% themselves, they retain the method that was used by actively going to a board and writing this out. I believe that multi-sensory input will help them retain and understand how to do it. Then I will call another student up to do a different aspect of the problem until pretty much everybody has a good understanding of what we're trying to accomplish. Now in mammals, remember vitamin D is converted to D3 in the skin through action of UV light on the skin. Well, chickens have feathers, very little skin surface, and plus most chickens are inside getting artificial light. So what do we have to do? Instead of relying on sunlight, can we do dietary treatment? What will we put in the diet? D3. Yeah, very good. My suggestions to new faculty on starting engagement in the classroom would be to start with simple questions of the students, or even bringing a student up to the blackboard or whiteboard and having them work through a problem or a situation. That's the simplest form of active engagement.